Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session, the Pipeline Reality Check. I'm Madelaine Oppert, SVP of Global Marketing at TechInformed, and your host for today's session. Today, we're asking a deliberately difficult and uncomfortable question. If less than 1% of leads close, what are we optimizing for? For years, B2B marketing teams have been under pressure to deliver more leads, more MQLs, more form fills, more campaign activity. But more activity does not automatically mean more revenue. This session is about what separates pipeline that looks healthy in the dashboard versus pipeline that is actually converting. I'm delighted to be joined by Amelia Taylor today, founder and revenue growth partner at the Revenue Table. Amelia works across sales, marketing, partnerships, ecosystem, demand generation, and broader GTM leadership, which makes Amelia the perfect person to bring into the conversation. So please join me in welcoming Amelia.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here. When you reached out wanting me to join y'all and we talked about the topic, I was like, yes, I'm in, just because this is one of those a little bit uncomfortable, nobody really wants to say out loud discussions. So I feel good about diving right into it, because I'm all about, let's talk about what people don't talk about.
Brilliant, because that's exactly what I'm going to ask you to do today, Amelia. So when Forrester's research suggests that fewer than 1% of B2B leads close, when you hear that, what does that make you think about how teams should assess whether their lead generation is contributing to meaningful pipeline?
The first thing I think of is what activity are we even doing? I mean, or are we almost paralyzed by the idea of so much automation, we don't even know where to start? Are we automating too much? And there's just things that are being tossed our way where it's, okay, let's go distribute it to everyone and anyone who has a name, who's sitting on LinkedIn or wherever, an email. And we're not checking the boxes of personalization, of being, you know what I can't stand. I'm gonna get backwards. I don't like to say personalization anymore. It's been so saturated. More of it being, is this relevant to the person on the other side? Does this matter? Does this solve and help them with their bottom line, their top line? And is this the right individual who can either be a champion and app within the organization that you're reaching out to? If it's not, that's probably a big contributing factor. And I would say this study shows with the 1%, which is really sad, that we're getting stuck in the middle somewhere of it being, let's go push a bunch out in the beginning. Let's see what sticks. Then we're not optimizing for going through that finish line, for crossing the line, because we don't know how, because we're not training people the right way anymore, because automation is at the forefront.
So when you're saying, where are you seeing the biggest issues with automation? Are you seeing it that we are sort of, as marketers, we're getting all these leads that are coming in, or we hope we're getting all these leads, leads more, let's not call them leads, because that's not what it is. We're getting a whole lot of contacts that are performing certain activities, and us marketers are taking those activities and we misconstruing that for buyer behavior and buyer intent, and then forcing that through to sales through automated CRM systems. Or if that's not what you mean, can you maybe just expand on that a little bit for us?
Well, if you think about it, there's not a lot of teams who are thinking in terms, and I'm going to just say, like, I would say 90% out there are not doing this, are not going and saying, okay, here is the solid top 20 leads that came in. This needs to go to this specific team, because, or these specific individuals. Sure, there's territory assignments. Sure, there's different things within sales that are, blockers that are not going to be where, hey, this account needs to go to you. But if there's a way to work around some of that, go to your closers, go to the people who are proven to show that they care about actually crossing that finish line by staying hyper relevant and top of mind for these people, going where they're actually living and breathing and talking, being in the market with them, showing up on their LinkedIn feed, commenting, being present. I mean, if you're not a part of the conversation, you're not memorable, you're not an option. So one message being sent out, it hyper speed and her hyper, variables, high first name. And God Almighty, let's please not say, I hope you're well. Let's please eliminate that from every little thing that we're ever doing. But if we can't go and find the right salespeople, and I think that's why some companies, I'm seeing a lot of growth, which is interesting within sales organizations. But
Mhm.
are we optimizing and helping these salespeople learn how to automate in the very best fashion to where it's going to be less being more, where you cross that finish line and instead of just pushing everything that comes inbound, the leads that we, hopefully are getting, because it
Yeah.
could be where the signal is showing someone sitting on your careers page. That's not your ICP. Why are we sending that over to sales? That's just a waste of their time. And if you're sitting in sales, you want to go make more money and you want to make more and then more. You're not just sitting in sales for no reason. So, we all have to have a roof over our heads and food on the table. So if we're not doing that, by being intentional with seeing what we're getting in and looking at things in real time and being able to send that to sales and having the communication layer between a quick Slack message, Teams, whatever it is that you have. Hey, sending this one over your way and documenting it, of course, documentation being key to everything of who it's going to and how it came in, so on and so forth. Having that all the dashboards and reports set up,
Mhm.
but those have got to be at that kind of speed, the same as we're doing the automation. So knowing who it is, if it matches your ICP, we can automate that, then great. Of it just streamlining straight to the right individuals. Does that answer your question better?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It absolutely does. And if we uh, to come off of that, how should teams interpret signals that we've just been talking about they get from prospects? And what context matters most when deciding whether there is genuine buyer interest? So how are when we saying when we're looking at everything, someone sitting at our career page, clearly that's not buyer
Right.
interest oriented. So what signals should we be looking at when looking at true buyer intent?
I mean, I would say, okay, if you're looking at someone who's come to your page 8 times and they're looking at products or they're looking at resources, uh,
Hmm.
those are your people. If they match your ICP, if those are your people who are they have clear intent to buy. And when we talk about intent and signals like it's nothing, we kind of breathe over it and we're like, oh, make sure you've got your intent and your signals and all the things set up. But do we really know what that means? To be like you're saying, like the question, the foundation of this question being, what are we looking for and why are we looking for it? I mean, I was consulting for a company and they had the highest tier Zoom info access. I mean, every little thing under the sun you could ever want. And they were using 7% of it. And they were not optimizing for having specific tags or um, different topics or things that showcased, okay, here are your top 5 people right at this moment who you need to go reach out to where sales can have an actual, here's who I needed to go target today. Here's the people that I know that I need to go talk to. Okay, here's the new list of people that I need to go talk to. And then it's just a targeted list and continuously growing, but have a cap on that too, because then it becomes automation at scale to where you're doing it so aggressively and you're not doing it to where it's intentional. So
Mm.
there's a difference between the two of those. But if you're not looking at, say, where they're talking, who they're talking to, because if you go in these Slack communities, if you go on Reddit threads, if you go where these different spaces and places where people are already discussing what their needs are, because they've already made their decisions before they're talking to you. They don't want to hear from you salespeople. They do not want to hear from marketing people. They don't want another marketing email because you're not new to them. I mean, they think, oh, it's just another company doing XYZ out there in the market. Sure, there's competitors galore with every company out there right now. So how do you stand out? You go and leverage what it is that people are doing, where they're at, who they're asking, who knows who. And if someone says in a Slack channel or community, hey, I'm hoping to figure out this, jump in, be the first one, set up your signals and triggers within there. So whereas your keywords, you're the first one to be automatically notified. You say, hey, I think I can help you out. Shoot over to their DMs and then
Mm.
verbatim quote what it was that they said. And you're showing that you actually care, that you're showing up in the places that they are at. But that could have come in by way of marketing saying, hey, this person is on our site. Great. Go see where they already are. Go on their LinkedIn. Like, go leverage that completely. Do a different channel approach is where I feel as though that's missing. I mean, I had someone reach out to me not long ago on Instagram, and that's filled with pictures of my kids and like some work stuff. So I thought, okay, this is quite different. But they said, hey, I feel like your LinkedIn inbox is probably flooded. I know that you are not wildly keen on email based off some of your content that you've put up before. And I was like, okay, they did their research. And it was where, sure, if it was automated, I don't care. The way that they did it, it was where they showed up in a way that I was not expecting. And I said, bravo, I'm not your buyer, but go try this Slack channel out because I think your people live here. And he was super, super nice. He's like, cool, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Like, give people guidance too. You know, if you're in a leadership position and people are not doing things in a way that makes any sense, if you're not their buyer, sure, we can leave them on red. I do that a lot. I love to leave people on red in the nicest of ways. I do, just because if it's hyper just pushed out into the world and it's like, oh yeah, Amelia is a 500-person company, you know, no, I'm not. Like, no, I am not. I'm not your buyer. I'm not enterprise. So I make no sense for someone to be reaching out to me if they're selling to the enterprise level. But if it's where they're going to solopreneurs, they're going to people who are not just, they're not looking for a franchise, whatever all these messages are that we're getting, but it's relevant to me and it's not hyper personalized. I don't care if we went to the same school. That is awesome. That's great. That's creepy if we're going to dig into, oh, we have this same dog's name. Like, I don't have a dog, so no, we don't. So, you know, let's not get hung up on the whole hyper personalization. Skip all that. People want to know if you're going to help them scale and get better and grow their business. So if you can't prove that right off the bat, then you're failing.
So that hyper personalization I mean, not focusing on the creepy, we went to the same school, we
Right.
have the same dog. I have a pain, I know your pain point. I know what
Right.
people in your position are struggling with. The people who do the same job as you that I've spoken to recently have this problem, and we've been able to solve it, or we're in a conversation. And I think what's also really interesting that I've sort of directed my team to look at the moment as well. I mean, if we look at a buying cycle is now 11 months long, and there's between 9 and 11 stakeholders in that buying committee. So look at how many people from one organization are on your site and are on certain
Mhm.
pages and are actually taking high intent actions, right? So how
Yep.
many of the same organization with the right job titles are
Yep.
looking at your company page, at your service pages, are clicking on your emails, are downloading reports, because then something's happening there. And
Mhm.
I had a conversation with someone a while ago. We have explicit CTAs throughout all of our content and all of
Right.
our websites. If somebody really wants to get in contact with you, they're going to book a meeting if you make it easy enough, right? So
Make it easy. Yes. Make it easy to say yes to.
yeah, but so we need to really do better as marketers, I think, when it comes to um, looking at those intent signals and
Mhm.
understanding when someone really wants to buy, right? So that we're not giving sales a bunch of leads for people who really just wanted to read a report and we happen to have a good one.
Exactly. Which I've done too. You know, I've clicked on the report on, you know, within HubSpot or whatever it may be because I know that they've got something that I want. And then it's not where sales is following up a million times, which they do a great job of that. But I could download it without having a plethora of emails come through or two salespeople sending me the same thing. And I'm like, are y'all sitting next to each other? Because I hope y'all know y'all said the same thing. But I think a massive factor with everything that you just said is that if we can't go and again going back to the very first point, optimize for it being that let's channel this very first conversation into a direction of how it's going to cross the finish line and looking at it through, okay, how many people are within this organization that are going to need to be in the conversation, and
Mm.
then going and even interacting with them. Because again, like, you have got to be memorable in this market. Like, this market equals memorable. Like, if you were not memorable, you were not there. So it doesn't mean that there needs to be a video message or whatever it is. I mean, sure, yes, let's go do maybe some of the steps that aren't always being done, but bend glass, break a few rules, do the things that you got to do in order to get to where you want to go. But go and figure out where these people are talking. That is the biggest point. I think that we are not doing well enough. I I had one of the biggest conversations where I had some pushback on. I've always sat on the sales side and jumped over into the marketing world, and so because I learned how to speak, I had a lot of questions. I was hyper curious about like, why are we not doing this? Look at what this company is doing. This is like a really great lead magnet. And so I would jump into marketing calls and they would uninvited. I'm like, I just am trying to learn. Like, you want to kick me out? That's fine. I'm just trying to learn. And so then it became, okay, I think I know how to drive demand and create and capture demand. So then I jumped to kind of this hybrid, let me go be the liaison between sales, marketing, demand gen, partnerships, and kind of sat in this messy middle, if you will, trying to communicate. Everyone's trying to speak the same language, but nobody communicates in the same fashion, or they know how to relay that message to one another. So knowing that, okay, somebody's got to go and communicate and relay these points. So one of the biggest things that the global demand gen team of this one company I was working with for a bit, they had pushback with me on when I said to them, they were redoing the website, and I said, okay, at the very top we have speak to sales, and then right below it we've got a form fill that's not, it's very unsolicited. It's just right there in your face, and it says book a demo. I don't know who wants to sit on a 60-minute long demo, let alone a 60-minute long webinar, right? People don't have time. So I had pushback saying, this is too much in your face. This needs to be more of let's give and then see what we get. Because once you give a little bit of free resources or whatever it may be, people are way more keen to look more into what else do they have? What else are they doing?
Yeah.
And showing up in the market in that sense, or displaying your brand in that way, is going to be so much more vital than it being talk to sales, book a demo. Because I had people come through the funnel by way of shooting me a LinkedIn message that I had sold to in 5 years ago, that they said, hey, we're looking into ConnectWise, but sorry, I'm name dropping, but that was the company I was working with at the time.
That's okay.
Fine, whatever. They know that I would say this anyways, but they would say, hey, we're looking into ConnectWise. But I don't want to have a million emails sent my way if I go and book a demo. Like, can you point me to the right person who knows what they're doing over
Yep.
there? And I'm like, that goes a long way with it saying that I stayed memorable with that person when I sold to them at one point, and that they wanted to go back channel it before they went full force into let me book a demo, because they already did their research. They already asked the people that they know. And so if we know that, go be present in those places and give free resources. Free resources are always going to win.
Right. So we've got some questions coming in. So while I've got you here, just before, because I'm very conscious of the time,
The 22
Amelia,
minutes.
I like the idea of casting yourself as a translation between all these different teams. How can others who feel like they exist in the messy middle every day at work make progress with aligning their colleagues? How do you make it easy?
The end of the day, the CROs, they are going to be your people who make the ultimate decisions on things, right? Like if they say something goes, that's what takes precedence over anything that the VP or the director level is going to do. They are already delegated to do certain things. But if you don't have solid relationships with the director level and VP level, cross functionally within a company, they're not going to champion anything that you're going to say. So there's a proof of concept. Sure, you can go talk about all the things you think should change, but then there's also the proof of value. So if you can't deliver the proof of value, the conversation is worthless. So what I've done is I have formed relationships with top sales individuals and that are within an org that I'm working with. And I'll call them my SWAT team. That's my SWAT team of people that I'll go test certain things with. They trust me enough for me to say, hey, I'm seeing so and so do this, and here's the proof of what they're doing, and here's the concept, and here's why. Can we go test this out in the market and see if this works? Let's do a 2-week trial. Let's see. And if anything happens, great. If nothing happens, great. But we tried. And so then bringing those results back, saying, hey, Mr. Miss Salesperson, whatever, sales leader, this is what we kind of tested. Here's what came from this. What are your thoughts on bringing this up the ladder a bit? And translating it in terms of them understanding that, translating as to why we did that into the marketing side, because ultimately everyone wants revenue. That is the goal at the end of the day, and that's what's needed to be had. So if we can't all, I mean, of course, it's going to be sales marketing. Everyone's going to say it forever. There's always going to be that challenge. We're all going to talk about it. How are we going to fix it? We have to learn how to have this whole life cycle form of communication of how do we go through from A to B to B to C. And that relies on communication.
Yeah.
So proof of value, proof of concept first, and then show the value, and then being able to push out a conversation, reaching out and unapologetically. People should be communicating within the workforce. You should be having a good friend who's on the ops side. Everybody should. You should always have a good friend on the ops side of the house because they're going to help you if you can't get something in Salesforce done. Go shoot them a message, they'll help you. So, absolutely don't be apologetic about it because if a company is going to have pushback on you trying to have communication within an organization, it's not somewhere you should be lying. That's not
Yeah.
somewhere you should be living or be breathing. They don't value the opportunity of growth right there and the movement that can be had within with being able to just speak in terms of let's all have this unspoken, hey, we're all trying to do the same thing, but none of us are communicating about it. Show up with intention, show up like you know what you're doing, if you even if you don't, right? But just go and directly go to the individual who is leading the charge.
So I want if you can sum up in sort of 2 or 3 points, what makes qualification and handoff work well between marketing and sales? We've been speaking a lot about marketing and sales, and it sounds like for our well, we know this, right? It's not sounds like, we know that for our
Right.
leads to be able to convert and for us to get that 1% number to change, sales and marketing have to work really closely together. So what makes qualification and handoff work well between marketing and sales?
One, if there's a good relationship between marketing and sales, if there are a few marketers who develop and you go and you listen to gong calls, you go and hear what the market's saying, what is the market even speaking about?
Mhm.
Then you're able to really disqualify, process of elimination, those that don't totally make as much sense as maybe the five below it. So, process of elimination, eliminate what doesn't make total absolute sense, checks all the boxes of what it is that your buyers need, how you solve bottom line, top line if they're ICP. And then I would say two is if you can do that on your own and show sales because they're already having zero trust with marketing, right? So if there's zero trust established, establish it by going being friends with the sales leaders. Literally, that's going to be a big thing. And I say being friends, but I mean being curious about what it is that their process is. So if
Mhm.
you know how they're working and what they're distributing, you know, and you say, hey, I've been out in the market, living in the market. Here's what I hear the market saying. Is this what the market's saying on the phone with your reps or via email? I need to know. Marketing can't speak to the market and what they're demanding if we don't know what sales is even talking to the market about. So it's feedback loops galore that have to be constantly had, but you've got to go talk to those sales leaders in order to understand completely what's being said.
Yeah. And I think also one thing that's worked really well for us is knowing what our sales team qualifies or thinks of as a
Right.
lead, right? You know, not only the ICP and the typical marketing things, but when we've handed over a lead to them, what has been their checklist,
Right.
right? Ensuring that those leads, that marketing and sales are speaking the same language. Another question has come in, and I, for our audience, I am keeping an eye on the clock, and I know we've gone slightly over, but Amelia, what is the one thing marketing and sales teams could change tomorrow to get more aligned?
Oh, I mean, how many times would you say, whoever's asking this, here's my question is back to you, as how many times is it where there is a conversation that's being had where it's between sales and marketing where there's alignment, right? I don't love that word, but how many times are we actually conversing and saying, where's our checklist? Where's our appendix? Where's our what we qualify as a lead, as a qualified lead, as the MQL, SQL? What do those look like? And if those don't check those eight boxes or whatever it is, probably you have to have enough length of something. I'm gonna say, let's say seven things that are the checks that you have to have in one line. Great. This qualifies this person as a lead. This company, yes. And then ops is able to go and pull lists that are going to be way more important than anything that you've ever gone off and done and been able to work. But if you can't go and set up specific calls, I mean, I would go say, if you're on the sales side, go and set up something with marketing as much as you don't want to, go do it and say, what are we qualifying things as leads as? Like, how are y'all qualifying things as leads? Because this is what we're doing. How do we meet in the middle to make sure that we're both qualifying things at the same time? And can we meet nobody wants more meetings, but can we have a quick 15-minute sync on how we're doing this? Because if I'm going and getting 1% of things closed, that's not feeding my family, right? So it's go make your money by doing the little things, by going and having a 15-minute sync on what's qualified. You're going to get better leads. You're going to build better relationships within the organization. You're going to be a change agent within the organization, but set something up. It can be 10 minutes. I don't care. Or a shared doc that someone creates. Go create something, distribute it over to the marketing side or the sales side, whatever side you're on, but start to deliver the value of I'm trying to make things change. Don't be afraid of change. Change is a really great word if we actually lean into it. You have to change or else you're gonna
well, something has to change, right? We need to get that one number up, and that's exactly why we're here. And I think everyone on the call today understands that something has to change. So Amelia, my last question to you, just to leave our audience with, and if your question hasn't been answered, we will take them to Amelia, and watch out for a blog article that we will send out to you. So a quick last fire question to leave our audience with. If a senior leader is reviewing their demand generation strategy for the year ahead, what should they consider changing to improve lead to revenue conversion? If you could give them one tip.
Gosh, I would say the biggest thing is where are leads coming from? And then focusing in on where that is, because it absolutely might not be website traffic. It might not be the inbound that you're looking at. It could be where we need to have specific marketers going in being external evangelists, and they're out in the market and they're not just creating content, but they're engaging with the ICP that you have or those key accounts that you're really trying to close, because your name is attached to the company's name and you're helping drive that demand. And then it's being captured by way of them being hyper curious. They want to know more. So then we're able to actually get that over to the sales side, but evaluate and document again exactly where it is that the most people are coming from, where they're at, and where questions are being asked externally outside of it being the website traffic or the open rate that people have. I don't care about an open rate. I want to know the response rate of things, and I want to know what people said when they responded. Anybody can open an email. That means a whole lot of nothing. They open it, boom, done. So looking at it from an angle of where the people who are our ICP, the people that are our buyers, where are they at and where are they talking and why are we not there?
Fantastic. I think that's a brilliant point to leave today's conversation off. Thank you so much for joining us, Amelia. And thank you to our audience for joining us. And please do join us on the 19th of June for our next live discussion. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.